Backlighting adds instant drama and atmosphere to your characters. It's the key to making them glow with life. In this tutorial, we'll explore how to shape, color, and enhance your lighting with dynamic post effects. Ready to glow up your art? Let's unlock the secrets of stunning backlighting and make your characters shine. What is backlighting? Backlighting places your subject in front of a light source, shining toward the viewer. While it may look like just outlining a silhouette, effective backlighting is really about how light wraps around form, and how structure and color work together to enhance realism and drama. Using 3D models for backlighting reference in Clip Studio Paint. Clip Studio Paint's built-in 3D models are a great tool for understanding how backlighting interacts with form, especially for portraits or complex poses. In this guide, we'll create a quick reference setup using CSP's 3D assets to plan our rim lighting before painting. How to set up a 3D backlighting reference. Go to Window then Material and click 3D to access CSP's 3D figure assets. Drag a 3D drawing figure onto the canvas and play with the settings and poses that you like. This will be the basis of our character base. Tip: I often shrink the default body's head and overlay a more detailed 3D head model for better facial lighting. Select the Operation tool on the Object subtool and click the wrench icon in the Tool Property panel to open detailed settings. Go to the Light Source tab, move the light behind the figure to simulate backlighting, and adjust intensity, angle, and even light color to fit your intended mood. This setup gives you a clear visual reference for where the rim light will fall, how shadows behave on the form, and the difference between soft and sharp transitions on curved versus flat surfaces. After setting the light, you can trace or build on top of the model with line art and base colors to form the foundation of your character before applying stylized lighting. Preparing the subject for backlighting. Backlighting is most effective when the subject sits in relative darkness, but shadows aren't just black. They reflect the environment. Here's how to do that based on your scene. If your background is mostly flat or limited in color, a quick tone adjustment will do. Create a new layer above your subject. Then, set the blending mode to multiply. Fill the layer with a slightly darker background color and clip it to the layer below and lower the opacity until the subject sits comfortably in shadow without disappearing. If your background has multiple hues or lighting conditions, we'll take a slightly more advanced route using CSP's color match function. If you drew your background, then save it or ready a background that you want to match your subject with. Then, duplicate your subject layer. Next, go to Edit then Tonal Correction and click Color Match. Click the folder icon to select the background image from your device. Uncheck Maintain Brightness and adjust the sliders until your subject adopts the color tone of the background naturally. Then, for shadow depth, create a new multiply layer above the color-matched subject. Fill it with grayscale values, just tone, no saturation, to darken it slightly and clip this layer to the subject to keep everything clean. Group all these layers into a folder to keep your project organized. Painting the backlight using 2 dynamic methods. In this part, we'll walk through how to isolate light info from your model to guide your backlighting. Now, go to your model layer, right-click to duplicate, and then right-click again to rasterize it. Drag this rasterized version to the top of your layer stack. We'll be working with this copy. Next, go to Edit Tonal Correction, Tone Curve. We'll use a classic S-curve to boost the contrast between light and shadow. Adjust the curve until the light areas are nice and clear. Flattening the curve a bit can help emphasize the lighting zones. Once that's done, go to Edit Tonal Correction, Reverse Gradient. This flips the lights and darks so the light shapes stand out even more. Then head to Edit, Convert Brightness to Opacity. This turns the bright areas, your light zones, into transparent highlights. Reverse the gradient one more time to bring the light areas back to their correct orientation. Now, use the Transform or Mesh transformation tools to align this light shape over your base character. Since your character may have clothing or extra design elements, you might need to adjust it a bit. Understanding how light behaves on forms. Before refining the light, it's important to remember, backlighting doesn't just trace outlines. It follows form. Light doesn't act like a flat highlighter. Instead, it wraps around the 3D curves and surfaces of your subject, changing depending on how each part faces the light source. Let's break it down and really look at how rim lighting behaves on different forms. On rounded areas like shoulders, thighs, or cheeks, the rim light doesn't just hug the outer edge. Instead, it bends slightly inward, following the curve of the surface. It gradually fades out, creating that soft, natural glow. For this effect, I recommend using an airbrush, blending tool, or soft eraser to keep it subtle and smooth. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The direction or angle of a form actually affects how visible the rim light is. Since light travels in straight lines, it bends with the structure, and how it lands changes with each surface. Smaller or narrower parts, like fingers, ears, or even the ends of fabric, show sharper, more focused rim light. That's because there's less surface area for the light to scatter. It has a more direct path. Also, take note of this. The thickness of the rim light often matches the thickness of the object. So, on a cone-shaped nose, for example, the light is thinner along the bridge, but as it reaches the round tip, it thickens where the surface projects outward. Once your rim lighting is following the form naturally, you're all set to move on to coloring it using one of the dynamic methods coming up next. Refining your lighting, making it dynamic and natural. Now that we've blocked in the backlight, it's time to make it feel alive. In this section, we'll go over 2 effective ways to color your lighting and add depth and realism to your work. Method 1. Blending mode and fill. Quick color control. This is the fastest and most flexible way to tint your lighting layer. Start by duplicating your white light layer as a backup and hide the original. Then, set the active light layer's blending mode to your own preference. Using the Add Glow. This allows the light to interact with the base colors underneath while still standing out. Now, let's add color. First, click the Lock Transparent Pixels icon. That's the little checkerboard in the layer palette. Choose a light color that suits your scene, whether it's warm sunset tones or cool moonlight. From here, you can either use the Fill tool to instantly apply that color, or softly brush it in for more control and subtlety. And if you ever want to change the lighting color later on, just repeat the Fill or Paint step. Easy and non-destructive. Method 2, Gradient Map in a color dodge group for dynamic, luminous light. Now, if you want your lighting to feel more magical or cinematic, something soft, luminous, and full of atmosphere, this method is for you. Start by placing your white painted light layer into a new folder. Then, set that folder's blending mode to color dodge. This will make your colors bloom with intensity. Inside the folder, create a new layer filled with black and place it underneath your light layer. This gives the group a dark base to react from. Next, create a gradient map correction layer above your light layer. Go to Layer, New Correction Layer, Gradient Map. Choose or build a gradient that starts with black on the left and shifts into your desired light colors. This will define the glow's tone. To adjust the effect, you can lower the opacity of the light layer to soften the gradient, or adjust the folder's opacity to control the overall glow. And if you ever want to shift the lighting mood, just double-click on the gradient map thumbnail and try out a different preset. This method gives you a glowing, film-like quality, perfect for dreamy, atmospheric lighting that really pulls your character into the scene. Final touches, painting over and adding light effects. Now that you've chosen your mood and placed your lighting, it's time to finalize the piece by painting over and applying light effects that enhance the entire scene. To make this part more convenient, I've flattened the lighting layer. This helps when applying filters and adjustments directly. Let's go through a few light effects that will bring your backlighting to life. 1. Glow or light bloom. Start by changing the blending mode of your lighting layer to Add, Glow, Overlay, or Color Dodge, whichever gives you the best glow effect. Then, go to Filter, Quick Effects, Gaussian Blur, or Lens Blur. This creates that soft halo around the light source, mimicking how light naturally diffuses. Adjust the blur intensity, and once you're happy, hit OK. Use a soft eraser to remove any excess glow where it doesn't belong, keeping the effect focused. 2. Lens Flare. This effect works best when your light source is positioned directly behind, or at a sharp angle to, the camera, partially hidden behind your subject. It creates a cinematic glow that really sells the intensity of the light. For this, I prefer to use the preset effect brushes that come with Clip Studio Paint. Start by creating a new layer. Select a sparkle or lens flare brush, then increase the brush size and tap once on the canvas to place your main light element. Once it's on the canvas, move it into position, ideally near or just behind your subject, where the backlight would naturally be. To make the effect more dynamic, I like to add dappled light and a few soft circles around the main sparkle. This helps simulate scattered light and gives it more presence. Next, duplicate that layer and move the copy underneath the original. Then go to Filter, Quick Effects, and select Chromatic Aberration, Lateral. Increase the strength to get that subtle RGB fringe around the edges. It mimics how lenses react to intense light. Now duplicate that aberration layer again. This time, change the blending mode to something like Add, Glow, or Screen, and apply a lens blur. Adjust the blur radius and intensity until you get that soft, glowing spread. Finally, adjust the placement, resize if needed, and lightly erase any parts that feel too overpowering, especially if they cover important parts of the subject. And that's it! With just a few layered effects and adjustments, you've got a lens flare that feels dreamy, stylized, and fully integrated into your backlighting. 3. Light rays or God rays. To create light rays without drawing each one manually, use the Radial Blur tool. go to Filter, Quick Effects, Radial Blur. The X symbol marks your light source. Move it into place, then crank the intensity to max. If the rays aren't strong enough, duplicate the layer and merge the results. Apply the effect again with the same source position. Change the blending mode and lower the opacity if it feels too heavy. Use Free Transform to stretch or reposition the rays, and clean up areas that cover your subject using a soft eraser. Next up is Light Wrap, a subtle but powerful effect that is especially useful for rimlit scenes, foggy environments, or anywhere you want the light to feel soft and ambient, rather than harsh and defined. Start by duplicating your background layer and move it all the way to the top of your layer stack. Now make a selection of your subject layer. This isolates the area where the wrap will appear. With that selection still active, go to the duplicated background and shrink the selection slightly. Once it's tighter, press Delete, then head to Filter, Quick Effects, Gaussian Blur, and apply a moderate blur to soften the edges. Now create another selection from your subject, go back to the blurred background layer and delete everything outside that new selection. Duplicate this final blurred piece once more, set the duplicate's blending mode to overlay, and you'll see the light softly bleeding into the form, giving your subject a more natural, diffused glow. Just play with the opacity of these light effect layers and erase some areas with a soft eraser. 5. Light particles, dust, and sparkles. This one's simple. Change the blending mode to something that glows, like Add, Glow, or Glow Dodge, and use a droplet or scatter airbrush to simulate floating particles. These pair beautifully with bloom or God ray effects and help break up negative space while adding a sense of atmosphere and motion. And that's it! Backlighting isn't just a glow. It's a powerful tool for shaping form and mood. With these techniques, you can add depth, impact, and style to your scenes. Keep practicing, stay curious, and let the light tell the story. Thank you so much for watching.